It's the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast with your hosts, the Wolf and Action Jackson, who are keeping rock alive by talking classic rock, hard rock, progressive rock, heavy metal, 80s music, early MTV, UK vs. US chart success, and much more. This is the home of classic album and live concert reviews and your place for interviews with artists and legends. You're rocking with the Wolf. Out there, rock and rollers. Welcome to episode number 255 of the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast. Brought to you by me, your host, Mac B. the Wolf, and I will be joined, as I always am, by my partner in crime from the East Coast of the United States, Mr. Gary Action Jackson. And we appreciate you all tuning in here lately. We've been doing a lot of fun shows on albums that are turning 40 and 45 and 50 and sometimes even older. Had some great guests on like Tony Michaelides on the latest episode of First Concert Memories, talking about seeing Led Zeppelin in 1969 on their UK summer tour. A little before our time. We've always wanted to hear about a Led Zeppelin show, and Tony provided it for us. So if you haven't heard that one, please go back and give it a listen. And we know there's a big reunion update from one of our favorite bands that just hit. Came a little quick. We haven't been able to get that together just yet, but we will offer our opinion on that as soon as we can, so you're just going to have to stay tuned. But first, we review an album that is turning 45 and was pivotal in the career of Mark Knopfler and Dire Straits, and that's Making Movies. Their third record, released in October of 1980, and is the follow-up to 1979's Communique. Now, Communique didn't do bad, but after Sultans of Swing and the first album hit big just a couple years before, they skyrocketed. They were off and running, and everyone was talking about Mark Knopfler as this next great guitar god. And maybe someone in the line of Bruce Springsteen or Bob Dylan's storytelling style, telling stories of the working man. Didn't have an amazing voice, but his voice fit the songs he wrote and the stories that he would tell in his songs. But Communique didn't do as well, so they needed to come back. And instead of going to Compass Point to record, this time they went to the Power Station in New York City and worked with legendary producer Jimmy Iovine, who had worked with Bruce Springsteen and Patti Smith, and of course would work with Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty and all those folks. And as far as the album goes, Making Movies, it's a strong one. It's a great Dire Straits record. And 4 of the 7 songs would make their way onto Alchemy, the live album, released in 1984, which is one of the Wolf's very favorites, and one we did an episode on near the beginning of our little podcast here in the teens, I think. We're on episode 255. That might have been episode 14 or something along those lines, a long time ago. But it's one that has done very well for us and people continue to listen to this day. As far as the songs go, well, Romeo and Juliet may not have been a huge hit right out of the gate, but it has a long life afterwards. Very popular with the ladies and popular in films and TV shows. Skate Away is something that's on classic rock quite a bit. Actually features the line "She's Making Movies" in it. Solid Rock was a fun one live. But Espresso Love and Tunnel of Love, both great Dire Straits songs that ended up on Alchemy, that are fantastic on this album and really helped the band continue that upward trajectory that they were looking for after the first one. And there are some big changes. Mark's brother David is no longer in the band. Mark can kind of handle his guitars, so to record they don't need another guitar player right now. And then they did bring in Roy Bittan on keyboards. Roy, of course, best known for being a member of the E Street Band. He might be the best player on here. No offense to Mark. We know he wrote and sang and played guitar on all the songs, but Roy really adds some textures and flavor to these songs that make them timeless. It was after this they started to pick up folks like Alan Clark and guest of our show, Guy Fletcher, in later iterations of the band. Of course, Guy is now his musical director and right-hand man. Sid McGuinness did a little bit of uncredited work on this. Sid, of course, being part of the World's Most Dangerous Band on Late Show with David Letterman. But that's because he's around in New York and knew Jimmy and could pop in to help out there. But first, we do have a little bit of business to take care of. We always love to mention we are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a family of over 100 different shows. You can learn more at pantheonpodcast.com or follow on socials at Pantheon Pods. And you know that we are going to give a shout out to our worldwide sponsor, rarevinyl.com, who is based in the UK, folks, but they acquire albums from all over the world and they ship all over the world too. And you better believe they have a couple cool Dire Straits items in stock. So if you're looking for a deleted single from someplace like the Netherlands, or you're looking for an old picture disc, maybe you're looking for a box set, they just re-released Brothers in Arms at 40 with a great show from San Antonio in it. Find whatever your heart desires, then go to checkout and use the code UGLY, UGLY, and you can save 10% off one entire order. Not just one thing, not just the least expensive or the most expensive thing in there, but everything in there. So you want to buy all 6 studio albums in pristine shape, go do that. You want to find some of the weird things or the hard to find things. You want to find some of Mark's solo albums. He's made more solo albums than Dire Straits ever did. Do that, buy them all, then use the code UGLY at checkout and save a big fat 10%. So visit rarevinyl.com, use the code UGLY, save 10%. Your record collection will thank you. Now back to making movies. This was actually the first non-greatest hits and non-live album of Dire Straits I ever picked up. Because I didn't pick up Brothers in Arms because, well, I heard it. I heard it on the radio, I heard it on MTV, I heard it coming out of cars. You couldn't get away from it in the mid-'80s. And then the first album I think I picked up was The Best Of. And then wanting to go explore more about Dire Straits, I chose this one, probably because of Skate Away, because I'd heard it on the radio, and I wanted to explore more of their catalog. Not to mention, I'd heard Alchemy, I loved it, one of my favorite live albums of all time, and these songs are all over Alchemy and done very, very well. So let's do it. We're talking Dire Straits making movies as it turns 45 here on The Wolf. But I'm glad that we made some time to talk about Dire Straits making movies today, just because I do love this record. The first Dire Straits album we ever reviewed was Alchemy.
Yes.
Like way back in the day. One of the first 15 shows we ever did. And it has gone on to be, I'm pretty certain, our number one most downloaded show in the history of our show. Of course, it's had almost 5 years to gather those, so it's not a surprise it's done better than something maybe we've done this year. But it just seems that, especially in Europe, we get kind of annual returns on that show. Despite it being so old and it's not an interview or something like that, we get a ton of downloads and interactions on that show. So someone out there in Europe really loves Dire Straits. And I love Alchemy. And this, to me, is the album that really comes through most on Alchemy. I mean, it's the one that I think that is the most, the jams are just that great on that live album. It kind of set them up for success. Their next album, Love Over Gold, wasn't huge. It had some epics on there. And then obviously after that, it was the Money for Nothing Brothers in Arms thing. But I think that this may be my favorite Dire Straits studio album. And that's after we did the first album. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing for a first album.
Yeah, so this one makes me kind of a little bit angry because there's songs on here that should be on the radio way more.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand Sultans of Swing is huge. I understand that several tracks off Brothers in Arms are huge. This is I don't want to say it's overlooked because, I think it still sold 5 million copies.
Right.
But this should be in much heavier play than it gets credit for.
Well, see, I agree with you, and that's why we do this show.
I'm listening to this record thinking, wait, what are we all missing here? They should just play this in its entirety.
I know.
Just let it spin. But one thing you have to give Mark Knopfler credit for is that, so they put the first record out, right? Hit, okay, cool, we're rolling. Yep. We got it, here we go. Then you put out the second record and, it falls a little flat. Not really what we thought this was going to be. Maybe it was a little rushed. Who knows? What do I need now? I need firepower. Mm-hmm. I need something big. I need Mr. Jimmy Iovine to come in and help me with this record. Because I guess he was really taken with Because the Night from Patti Smith.
I see.
And Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
And Jimmy Iovine.
And that's why he chose Jimmy.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. He said, "Come on in. I want you to work with me." Now it's pretty cool that somebody who is of that caliber would say, "Yeah, I want to work with you." That's a pretty big mark for Knopfler.
True. Yeah, no doubt. And Knopfler was getting a lot of praise for his extraordinary guitar work, basically based on the first album. But yeah, he ended up recording with Steely Dan around this time. And it wasn't too far after this that he worked with Bob Dylan on Infidel's album, which also featured the Rolling Stones' Mick Taylor. But, he was kind of all over that one. But I think that, getting Jimmy in, and I'm sure you're right, because, you have your whole life to record your first album, and then you have 6 months or less to record your second one. And the first Dire Straits album comes out in June of 78. The second one comes out in June of 79. So Sultans of Swing hits huge, and they're all over everywhere. They're not just big in, Britain. They're kind of big around the world just because of that song. And then you've got to, we've got to do another one, and you'll do it in Compass Point in the Bahamas. We'll take you down there, and you record it in 3 weeks, not even, between like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Not that they have Thanksgiving, but still, and they just kind of whip it all together. There are some good songs on there. And look, like we said, we'll end up doing all the Police records. I'm sure we'll probably end up doing all the Dire Straits records. There's only 6 to do. So at some point we'll probably get there. But though the second one had Once Upon a Time in the West, which is, I think, a really good live track on Alchemy, Lady Rider on the TV, minor hit for them, it just didn't hit the same way. So like, hey, we need to get back up there in that stratosphere of selling many, many millions. And so, he brings Jimmy in to help him. But you mentioned, he worked with Patti Smith and he worked with Bruce Springsteen. Well, someone who adds a lot to this album is not a member of Dire Straits, but Roy Bittan, who was in the E Street Band forever. I mean, as far as I know, he still is. All the keyboards you hear all over this, which is a big part of Espresso Love and, Tunnel, all that. He did that, and he's a big reason why we like this album.
I was going to say, so I read that, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Cool, you bring this guy in. But, it's Knopfler. You want to hear him play the guitar, that's why you're here. But the more you listen to this, you say, hey, yeah, wait a minute. The piano, organ, all of that stuff is a huge part of this record. Huge. Just kind of peppering it in like, we were talking about Nicky Hopkins. It's the same thing. You just add, it just adds a layer. It never really out in front, never really demanding attention. But the more you listen to this, the more you hear it and say, yeah, that was a huge pickup for this record.
Absolutely. No, it just, it sets the tone. It gives Mark somebody to play off of, basically. And it's years before they're going to get Guy Fletcher into the band. That's still 5 years off or something like that before he comes in. It's about right. Yeah. It's still about 5 years before Guy comes in. Alan Clark would join right after this as kind of like a permanent member. I guess the big change in the band on this album is David Knopfler, Mark's brother, going away.
Yeah, that's it. For all intents and purposes, yes. He literally went away.
He just kind of went away.
Yeah.
And look, it's got to be tough when everyone's telling you, your brother is the new guitar hero. He's the next guitar god. He writes all these songs, so he's kind of a genius. And though his vocals, they aren't like beautiful, they're not like Don Henley kind of vocals, for the kind of songs he sings and the story he tells, it's kind of perfect, It's a little raspy, it sounds world weary, and it sings the kind of songs that you sing in Dire Straits. And I think that, it's really just the three of them. Knopfler, of course, John Illsley, who's on every Dire Straits album, and then Pick Withers, who was their drummer until late 82. It's the three of them that are the quote-unquote the band at that point. But Roy doing his thing is huge for this album, and I would say just huge for the band in general, because after that, they had to pick up a keyboard player. Otherwise, the songs aren't going to sound right.
Right. And so I'm reading through this material, what happened here? Like, there was a lack of commitment, like it just wasn't really, his parts weren't coming through. What was the deal? And they finally, I think he was just dismissed, like, get out, we don't.
Maybe.
we're not using your part. They re-recorded everything, and I don't think they've talked to each other since then.
That's a gray area. I think Mark did something on David's solo album, which came out not super long after this.
It wasn't like that. It's like, he's dead to me.
No, but it's close. Seriously, it's close.
That's a difficult situation because, like you said, this is when it's family, it just takes on a whole weird dimension. When it's professional people, you can have disagreements, you can
Right.
have falling outs, and then you move on. But then it's like, have you talked to your brother today? No, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
because he's an ass.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. And then the whole Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing.
Mhm.
Neither of the Knopfler brothers showed up for that. As far as I can remember, it was Illsley and Pick Withers. And did Fletcher show up? I'm not even sure if he did.
I don't know. Yeah.
And they, of course, Mark Knopfler will downplay it and be like, maybe if you're an American, it's a big thing, but as a Brit, it's really not that big of a deal. And, so what if I'm in, whatever, I don't really care. But I mean, I think even then it was like, if he's going, I'm not going. And that's why I'm not going. And then neither one of them went, and they, of course, they didn't play. I'm like, what a waste, Stupid. But yeah, I mean, some people are built for the road and some people aren't. And I think that when we're like, hey, we're climbing the chain, we're playing gigs around the UK and maybe off on the continent once in a while. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm young. I get to travel a little bit. I don't have to be in an office. Yeah, it's cool. But then that first one hits huge time. It's like, okay, now you're always touring, or you're always recording, or you're making a video, or you're doing an interview, you're doing this. I remember seeing interviews with them. It was like Mark showing off his red guitar somewhere in London, and David just looked tired. He looked worn out.
Okay.
And so I just think that, it possibly that he was like, God, when do we get a break? And Mark's like, we don't get a break. We're trying to stay on this path up. And the second album didn't do that well. We need more. And so, apparently whatever he did record for the album was scrapped and re-recorded. And it's not like Mark couldn't play his parts. David can't play Mark's parts, but Mark can play David's parts. So, thanks. And we're all going to go ahead and move on. But they made, they got a hell of an album out of it. I'll tell you that. And it's one that I went ahead and picked up. It was, it was actually kind of somewhat similar to The Police, Zenyatta Madada, when I was like, okay, Brothers in Arms was huge, right? Got it. Great. Killer. Alchemy. It's a live album. It's a de facto greatest hits, and it is really awesome. It shows them kind of at their best at this peak when Hal and Alan were in the band. Okay, what else is there? And I think Skate Away, which is something that is played on classic rock radio quite a bit, was something that I liked, and it wasn't on Alchemy, and it wasn't necessarily on the greatest hits albums. So I'm like, okay, let's start there. If I like Dire Straits and I want to go back in time.
Okay, so that was the one that led you to this record.
Right. That's right. Yes. I'm pretty sure that it was Skate Away, because it's like some of these, and obviously Romeo and Juliet has this huge second life versus just its pop song phase in 1980 or 81. So like that's on there, but it's like, Skate Away. I've heard that on the radio. It's pretty good. You're not getting that anywhere else. Let's get that. And of course I got it used probably at, Park Avenue Records, maybe not. Maybe I got it a little later. I can't really remember. But it was one that's like, okay, if you're taking deeper dives, because not only was the album Alchemy big, but there's the video, right? And, the old VHS, now, of course, it's on DVD, and recorded at Hammersmith. Like, it was so good. They were so on for those shows, and it was recorded so well. And from what I understand, really wasn't, fixed, quote unquote, in the studio afterwards. Okay. There wasn't a whole lot to fix. It is a very live album. Like, okay, well, that's awesome. To me, it's a quintessential live album of the 80s. So I'm like, all right, where am I going to go backwards to hear some of that stuff and then, get a little bit more? It's this one. And so is it my favorite studio album? It's close. It's tough. It's tough. It comes down to this, the first album, or of course, Brothers in Arms. And Brothers in Arms technically might be a masterpiece, but it's also something I've heard a billion times at this point.
Right.
So then, all right, well, does it come down to the first or the second one? First or the third one? I don't know. I might take the third one. Based on Sultans of Swing alone, the first one could probably win most arguments. But I don't know. I just think that there's some of the songs are longer, but they're not crazy long. Like on Love Over Gold. There is a little bit on here that maybe they could have done without, but we'll get into that as we go.
It seems like on this one, there's more of like the storytelling. You get these little vignettes, which are kind of cool. That's Bruce Springsteen-esque. I'm interested that I never really thought about this too much, but because I didn't know the connection between Bruce Springsteen, but the first track is Tunnel of Love.
Correct.
And he put out a record in 1987 called Tunnel of Love.
That's true.
There had to be some kind of, I mean, is that a tip of the cap? Is that a shout out? I mean, I know well, I don't know, but I would imagine he's a fan of Mark Knopfler. That seems like it's an awful big coincidence. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tunnel of Love, it's one of those things at the amusement park, right? That that's, little couples would jump in there and maybe there's lovey-dovey stuff and then maybe there's scary stuff, whatever gets you closer to each other. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, that's kind of the state of the band at the time. 78, they go huge, one of the biggest debuts going. 79, Communique comes out. You guys still know Sultans of Swing, right? Yeah, just play that a little bit more. You
want to hear the new stuff? Not really.
That's fine. And then so Mark's like, okay, look, I'm still going up. But then also, I mean, it wasn't too long after this that Mark is making movie soundtracks. He starts in on that. So, I mean, is that something that he was already working on and that's where the name came from? Or is it's just a line in Roller Girl and Skate Away? She's making movies on location.
Right.
I don't know what it means.
Well, they had a whole track making movies that did not make it to this record. It got scrapped and reused. But that's interesting that you would have this. You're now in the phase of you have so much stuff that you can chunk things that don't work.
I guess that's true, yeah. And the cover, maybe they could have chunked that.
That's an interesting. It's an interesting choice because it's very stark. It's just red with a little blue tab on the side of it. It says Dire Straits making movies. That's it. There's no artwork. There's no anything.
I mean, versus say a communique that had the letter that kind of looks like the sky and maybe a little person in it, and then the first one had the picture that was kind of blurry and all that. Yeah. It's a choice.
Right, correct. Yeah, it's very stark. I mean, I guess it's hard to miss. You know exactly what it is. But as far as like a piece of art that I want to look at, standalone, no.
So yeah, they had been in Nassau for the second album, I should say, Compass Point, and they recorded it maybe 6 months before it eventually came out. This one was recorded at the Power Station, New York. It's like Jimmy's like, okay, you're going to come to New York. You're going to work with me here. And it was from end of June to end of August before it came out in October 17th, 1980. So a little tighter time frame here, and that's probably good. Also, from listening to Tom Petty, Jimmy is he makes sure that the trains run on time. You're not sitting around goofing off with Jimmy. He comes in, okay, guys, what we were working on yesterday. You still got that one? What key is that in? Let's get that going. Right? You ready to tape? Go on. You ready? Pal, you in there? You ready? He's
That's what you need, though. You need somebody to keep you on task. I wonder too sometimes about how I'm sure it's fun to record at Compass Point or one of those exotic places, but is it hard to keep people on task when it's beautiful and the beach is calling and so many drinks for everyone to have? And maybe you need something in a big city where you're just here to work. We're not here to fool around.
And being Englishmen who dreamed of coming to America, a couple months in New York is probably a pretty fun thing to be able to do,
Yeah.
So let's do it. You mentioned that the song Making Movies was reworked. Yeah, it was reworked into Espresso Love with an X, and some of the lyrics moved into Skate Away. There's also Suicide Towers, Sucker for Punishment, and Twisting by the Pool. Now, Twisting by the Pool ended up getting released on the EP they did between Love Over Gold and, I mean, technically it was between Love Over Gold and Alchemy, but it was between Love Over Gold and Brothers in Arms. I think it was because Mark was suddenly busy at this time. He was doing some production. He's doing movie soundtracks. He's working with Bob Dylan. So they're like, okay, we're not going to release anything in 83. What do we do? It's like, well, we've got a few songs that we can pop on there. And one of them was Two Young Lovers, which was on Alchemy. And then Twisting by the Pool is kind of a funny, silly little, I don't know, 50s ditty kind of thing.
Yeah, which I don't think would have worked on this record. So I'm glad they shelved that and put it out later.
Absolutely. I wonder if there was like a 45th anniversary edition or a 50th at some point that maybe we would get to hear some of those, or maybe hear them in their original form or something. I don't know.
Huh. There's only somebody we could ask about that. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
If there is, he'd be involved with
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Guy may not have played on it originally, but Guy is Mark's go-to
He's the musical
director and co-producer and even engineer if he needs it.
Yeah.
And so, but we just got the 40th anniversary of Brothers in Arms with the live concert from San Antonio. By the way, it turns out it was easier for me to buy that from Japan than it was here. I can't explain that, but
is it like the Japanese version?
Not really, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, all right.
It's like they just didn't stock it. You had to buy it from direstraits.com or whatever, and then there was extra postage associated with it. But for some reason, I could get it via Amazon, via Japan, without postage. It just maybe took a couple weeks or whatever. Very strange.
But you got it, though.
That's important. Exactly. I got it. I got to hear the San Antonio show. I was happy about that. And that's got to be weird that, that's a theater. They're doing theaters, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, that kind of size.
Yeah.
And then the album blows up, and then all of a sudden you have to play arenas and then eventually even stadiums. Got to be a crazy time to just go like that. Yeah. But this sold well. It did well. Like you said, it might have been 5 million. It was platinum in the US and double platinum in the UK, but it went top 10 in Sweden, in Spain, and went to number 1 in Norway and Italy, top 10 in Germany and the Netherlands and New Zealand, Australia, 19 in the US, but still that's pretty respectable, 4 in the UK. So people were digging the Dire Straits, and I think that some of these are pretty damn good, and obviously some of them have become timeless.
Hi, this is Guy Fletcher from Dire Straits, and you're listening to The Ugly American Werewolf in London.
Let's go ahead and start walking through the tracks here.
Mm-hmm.
Tunnel of Love kicks it off. Longest song on the album at over 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it begins with a little carousel waltz from Rodgers and Hammerstein. It's
right. Which I picked up on right away.
Well, I picked up on that was not necessarily, or it sounded like something that you really would hear on the carousel, like it's just something they pump in like on a calliope or something like that while you're spinning around on that thing. But it's Rodgers and Hammerstein-esque, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like I read that, I was like, yeah, sure, okay. It sounds like he's playing the organ. I get it. It actually kind of sounded almost like an old-timey movie to me. I guess maybe I had making movies in my head. But yeah, there's that, and then it goes into why we're here. But I don't know, like it just sounds like right off the bat, this is going to be a little bit of a darker record with the tone.
Well, that's interesting that you say that. It's not a happy pop record necessarily, and even the love song, if it's Romeo and Juliet, well, you know how that ends. That's
right.
That's a bit of a bummer. But because of that tip of the cap, or you have to give them credit for that bit that is theirs, that is Rodgers Hammerstein. It's only one of 3 songs in the whole Dire Straits catalog that is not 100% credit to Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, you can't mess with that. You got to give them credit, or you're going to have a very large lawsuit on your hands.
Right, yeah. And the other 2 were, one's Money for Nothing, because they had to give Sting credit for...
Same thing, yeah.
For I Want My MTV.
Right.
And then What's the Matter Baby, which is on the first album, was co-written by his brother David.
Oh.
Is that right? That wasn't on the first album. It appeared on Live at the BBC, which is a 1995 album they came out with to just kind of show their time playing live on the radio or whatever, even live on TV. And it's got Sultans, Down the Waterline, Water of Love, Six Blade Knife. So a lot of this came out earlier. And obviously, if David wrote it, he played on it. So it's got to be from the first 2 records. It's something that they, I guess, tried out and that they didn't lay down. Yeah, maybe
interesting.
So see, now I got to get that shit.
Come on, tell me what's the matter with you, baby? Baby, what's the matter now? What's the matter? You're running in the shadows every time you hear the wild man.
Because I have all of Dire Straits records, which is not that mean a feat, but I don't have that one. All right, anyway.
Yes.
How do you like Tunnel of Love overall?
I like it. I think it's a cool song. Like I said, it seems like it's a little darker. It's a story song. Mm-hmm. I like getting into, I don't know what he was talking about at the beginning, getting crazy on the what? What is this thing? All right, now I got to look. He's getting crazy on the waltzers. It's some kind of ride at the carnival. I'd never heard of that before, but it's just fun to hear other terms used. And yeah, it's just about being young, being in love. You were saying these songs are kind of timeless. The video's not. The video is very, like, if you didn't play the music, if you just showed me this, you're like, oh yeah, what is that, like 80, 81? Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody looks like a new wave video, but it's not a new wave song. It's a little weird. The other thing too is that the video is the full 8 minutes.
Right, which is why you didn't see it much, which is why
Yeah.
they couldn't overproduce it, because that would be really expensive. And yeah, no, I get that.
I'm just surprised if they were going to make a video, they didn't say, okay, we're going to cut this thing down to make it a single length, because no one wants to hear 8 minutes and 11 seconds on radio.
It's true. I mean, for the most part, it's true. You go on AOR, you could do fine. But then, Sultans of Swing is not a 3.5 minute pop song. It's like 6 minutes or whatever it is. So, I mean, like, hey, if anyone gets a little leeway, we'll give it to them, I suppose. I don't know. The way he sings it, though, is so very Knopfler. Yeah, and it's a story song. It's about being down on the boardwalk. Like you say, getting crazy on the waltzers, but it's the life that I choose. Sing about the 6 blades, sing about the switchback, and a torture tattoo. And we get to the chorus. Big wheel keep on turning, neon burning up above, and I'm just high on the world. Come and take a low ride with me, girl, on the tunnel of love.
I had the one-on bandit fever. There was an arrow through my heart and my soul, and the big wheel keep on turning. Neon burning up above, and I'm just high on the world. Come on and take a low ride with me, girl, on the tunnel of love. Yeah, love.
That's a young man's story, I feel like, being out at night. Okay, yeah, we're down here at the carnival or the fair or whatever you want to call it. We're doing the rides. It's been money for muscle on another world gig. Money for muscle and another girl I dig. Another hustle just to make it big. Rock away, rock away. But they talk about the Spanish city.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. That's a callback to something that he was recalling his youth about, or something, I think.
Yeah, and of course he does "Hola," when they have that little kind of break.
Yeah.
He did that live too. That's just part of the song. It's not just a little something that he threw in there. But yeah, he's talking about the Spanish city, talking about the dining entertainment center in Whitley Bay, England, which has the rides and the amusements. And that's kind of what he's referencing throughout the song. And I feel like maybe Brian Johnson, who has kind of a cool show where he goes and talks to some of the legends of his own generation, that maybe if they weren't there, it was at least Mark was explaining it and maybe showing off something similar in a similar place. But it's a pretty damn good song, and it is a story song. It kind of keeps going. Yes, there is a chorus. It's not just a straight like Dylan story song where there is no chorus, or even Springsteen did the same thing. You just kind of keep telling the story, telling, and there's no like hook or chorus or something to come back to. But it was great live. It's been on basically all their greatest hits albums. And 4 of these songs not only survived this tour, but they survived the Love Over Gold tour and the Brothers in Arms tour. And that is this one, Romeo and Juliet, Espresso Love, and Solid Rock.
Okay.
And then I think they ditched maybe Solid Rock for the On Every Street tour. One of them got ditched. I'd have to look that back up. But those 4 we're like, okay, we're not straying from those. We're keeping those. Those are too good live, and they all show up really well on Alchemy.
And there's a second part to this, isn't there?
So that was the B-side.
Yeah, okay, so what is that? Is that just more of the same thing? I tried to look for it live, and that's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, I actually didn't listen to that. Maybe I'm a terrible person for not doing that. But
well,
yeah,
hold on, just stop for a minute.
Yeah,
you're a terrible person, but not for that.
Okay, well that's true, I guess. Okay. Well, I don't know. There's lots of reasons. Anyway. Hola. It was the first single released. It went to 54 in the UK. Went to 7 in Italy, which is a pretty good hit for them. 11 in Spain. Of course, they talk about the Spanish city and they say hola, so it's got to get up pretty high.
There you go.
In Spain.
Perfect.
This just kind of shows they weren't just based on an English-speaking audience. They were huge in continental Europe and had been since the first album. So it's like, yeah, it does platinum, double platinum in the UK, platinum in the US, that's fine. But it's going gold and platinum in all these other territories, picking up sales and picking up singles sales and all that kind of thing.
Well, I think that kind of speaks too to, even if you don't really understand what he's saying, you can listen to the music and the groove. Because, I mean, the last 2 minutes are basically just a extended jam.
That's right, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you can have that experience without really knowing what he's saying.
Well, I got a feeling the record company was like, hey, can we get another Sultans of Swing? And so this one's longer, and there is the slow down and build back up. It's not quite the same level as Sultans, but there is that. Not as epic, but it's got the great piano from Roy on here.
Yeah.
And I think it lends itself really well to be playing live. It was used in An Officer and a Gentleman and did end up on that soundtrack. So that also helps with sales and money and exposure and all that kind of stuff. Because that was a huge, huge movie. Huge for Richard Gere, huge for Deborah Winger. I remember my dad going to it and being disappointed. He's like, man, I thought, because he was in the Army, he's like, I thought you could show him shining the shoes and being in the barracks and doing all that stuff. I'm like, dude, no one wants to see that. It's a love story. What's wrong with you? Jesus.
You know, that scene when they were shining the shoes, that really hit home.
Jesus. What is wrong with you? Now,
Yes.
coming up next,
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to say this is their biggest song or their most famous song. It certainly wasn't the one that did the best on the charts, but the longevity of this song and the second life that it's had is, I don't know, something special. It's one that he's continued to do. He never shied away from it. He plays it every night as a solo artist and has for a long, long time. It's Romeo and Juliet. It's not only a classic rock staple, but I feel like it's beyond even classic rock. Like it's kind of taken a life of its own almost and has its own status in the world because it's not just a Dire Straits song. It's a song that, you know, people love and has been in a bunch of movies and stuff like that.
Even if you didn't like Dire Straits or didn't know who they were, you can enjoy this song because you're right, it's taken on a life of its own.
And he uses that old school guitar.
Yes.
Looks like it's made out of metal. What's it called?
Yes. It's a National Style O guitar. And yes, that is
Yes.
the one on the cover of Brothers in Arms. Because I thought, I'm like, what is that? Is that a mandolin? I'm like, no, that's got to be that steel guitar. And sure as hell, there it is.
There it is.
So yeah, it's got a very cool sound to it. And it lends itself to this track. And this is another one. This is a story song about being in love and maybe the timing isn't right, but you know, you have these feelings and you just can't ever get on the same page.
Well, yeah, and I think it's done, well, it's done really well too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's been in, I don't know how many movies it's been in. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, well, what are the big ones, or what are the ones that wanted us, that have us say, okay, yeah, that was definitely a big one for it. I think it was in Empire Records, which was the first time I saw Liv Tyler.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting.
Yeah, and so that counts. Empire Records, yeah, 1995. And then, you know, swinging through here, Can't Hardly Wait, which was another kind of teen movie. It was kind of after we were teens, so it didn't really register the way that, you know, it might have. 200 Cigarettes. Don't know if you saw that one. Hot Fuzz, which Simon Pegg, I'll always take a Simon movie. He's awesome. Brothers and Sisters TV show I did not see. EastEnders is big in the UK. It's been going, it went for, 30 years. I think Martin Kemp was on there for a while. This Is Us. Didn't see that one. But the bottom line is, I, Tonya. It was in I, Tonya. That seems a little out of place in I, Tonya. Unless it was like when her boyfriend was beating the snot out of her and it was on like ironically or something like that. Set It Up. Can't say I know that one. But, bottom line is it's had this kind of long life. It's in TV. It's in movies. It maybe didn't do great. I mean, it did number 8 UK. That's pretty good. Number 5 in Ireland, but it didn't really chart in America. So, it goes platinum in the UK and Spain and, New Zealand and stuff like that. But yeah, it didn't really go anywhere here. But so over time, it became a bigger deal. And really, it's just him and his guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you.
A little bit of piano in there.
A little bit from Roy, but there's not much from the rhythm section on this one.
Chains of gold. You can fall for pretty strangers and the promises they hold. You promised me everything. You promised me thick and thin, yeah. Now you just say, oh, Romeo, yeah. You know, I used to have a scene with him. Juliet, when we made love, you used to cry. You said, I love you like the stars above. I love you till I die.
Of course, what I learned that I did not know was that he had this romance at the time with Holly Vincent.
Oh, right.
Holly was an American.
Mm-hmm.
She's a singer and a songwriter, and she was in a band called, was it Holly and the Italians?
All right.
Oh, it was. It was Holly and the Italians. And basically, it just didn't work. And I think he felt like she was just kind of with him to get some heat on her own career, to get her face in some magazines, to get a little, you know, hey, yeah, I'm with Knopfler. And then she introduced to some of the right people. And that's why when you hear stuff like, it's like you could tell Romeo's very much in love with Juliet, but now she's like, oh yeah, Romeo, yeah, I used to have a scene with him, you know. Yeah, whatever. But he said that refers to an interview with Vince where she said, what happened was that I had a scene with Mark Knopfler and it got to the point where he couldn't handle it and we split up. It's like, oh, he couldn't handle it. Right. That's what it is. Try Rolling Stone magazine's Axel Foley. That's what it is. She got a record deal on the strength of the single, Tell That Girl to Shut Up. Well, that tells you all you really need.
Right.
Never heard of you, Holly. Sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned the piano was mentioned before. Apparently, Roy did a little bit of plagiarizing himself. Apparently, his part he kind of borrowed from Jungle Land, which he also played on. And he kind of reworked that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and he experimented with an open G tuning. Look, it's something that people look forward to. But he also has callbacks, you know. There's an allusion to Somewhere from West Side Story. He also does, Hey, my boyfriend's back. So he's kind of talking about these old school kind of songs. And yeah, it's star-crossed lovers.
Right.
Who don't work out.
Right. It's just never the right timing.
Yeah. But this is 6 minutes. I mean, again, some people in the United States, how long is it? 6 minutes? Nope. Can't play that.
Right.
That's just... Sorry, that's just.
And it's not, and there's no solo, there's no instrumental part in here. It's just pretty much like you said. It's him and the guitar, a little bit of piano, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's a slow song anyway, and it slows down more, you know. and so, okay, well, all right, it's not going to be for everybody. It's not Sultans of Swing. It's not super rockin'. But you know, Juliet, the dice was loaded from the start. I bet when you exploded into my heart, I forget the movie song. When you're going to realize it was just that the time was wrong. True. It's an old school.
Unfortunately, it just doesn't work out.
That's just the way it is sometimes. Yeah. Timing is what timing is, you know. Got a great song out of it.
Yeah.
So he may not have anything to Holly, and Holly may have faded into obscurity as far as the rest of us are concerned. But he's been playing this song every night for 45 years. So
you think she says that still to this day? You know, that song's about me. He wrote that about me.
Yeah, while she sits at the end of the bar. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Let me tell you a story.
Hear that song? That song's about me. Sure it is, lady. You want another wine spritzer? You shut up.
I was a Holly and the Italian.
Right. I see. Yeah, good for you. All right. Next up, Skate Away.
Yes.
Yeah. The song that kind of got me to pick this album up in the first place. You used to hear this on the radio growing up, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I didn't realize it was off this record, but I do remember the song. I guess he was in New York working with Steely Dan. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there were people who would roller skate through traffic in New York City. And they'd mess with cab drivers and everything, grab the back of the car and go. And you just thought it was insane. Why would you do this?
By the way, he's right.
You were going to get, because the cab drivers in New York, they don't play. They will run you over. Yep. So I guess that was the thing. It was just it was a fad coming off of roller disco when its course.
Right.
Yeah, I think he just was captivated by these people just really not caring, and made the story of this one woman who's choosing her own path. So again, here we have another story song of this person who's, I guess, giving the finger to everybody and doing what she wants.
True. But then when he goes, she's making movies on location, she don't know what it means. And then there was, of course, Boogie Nights, where there was Roller Girl.
That's the problem now, is that's all I can think about when he says Roller Girl.
Right? It is.
Yeah. Yes.
But the music make her want to be the story, and the story was whatever was the song, what it was. I'm not sure I understand that triplet, that line, you know, but generally speaking, I kind of like it.
She's making movies on location. She don't know what it means. And the music maker wanna be the story. And the story was whatever was the song, what it was. Roll a girl, don't worry. DJ play the movies all night long.
But here, okay, so here's another one where it's silent, right? And then all of a sudden the drums kind of come in, and then that organ that really sets the tone. Like it's just kind of this cool deal that Roy's doing that it's not, it doesn't jump out at you, but it definitely sets the scene here we're going to get into.
Yeah, and it's just also the way he's playing the guitar. He's not really strumming. He's picking it, staccato picking, and it's got this kind of cool little rhythm, almost a rockabilly thing, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
But it kind of keeps it all moving. So it's got a good rhythm, even though he's not doing a whole lot as far as he's not big in big riffs. Mm-hmm. But it helps the story move along, and it does kind of sound like you're popping along on the pavement.
Right. Yeah, you're riding along with her and,
you know?
And through this city. Yeah.
But the roller girl, she's taking chances. They just love to see her take them all, you know. Hallelujah. Here she comes. I've always really liked this song. She tortures taxi drivers just for fun. She likes to read their lips. Says, Toro, Toro, taxi, see you tomorrow, my son. I swear she let a big truck grease her hip, you know. You're crazy to do that. You're crazy
Correct.
to do that anywhere, certainly in New York City. But yeah, that's kind of the way it was. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of, shala, shala, it kind of goes out with a little scatting along with her skating, I guess. Great song. Great on the radio. I guess they didn't play it a whole lot. I don't know why, because I think it's pretty damn good song. It's had a nice second life too.
Yeah, it's a little bit long. The kind of the dead air at the beginning is a little weird. It takes a minute to get going. Maybe that had something to do with people not wanting to play it on the radio. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I mean, that's about 21 minutes. And that's the first side in 3 songs, 8+ on Tunnel of Love, a 6-minute Romeo and Juliet, and the 6:40 Skate Away, which was released in the U.S. as their second single in December of 1980. It only went to 58 on the Billboard Hot 100, 37 in the U.K., and it was backed with solid rock. And I believe that Romeo and Juliet, which came out in January and maybe wasn't even released in the US as a single. I think it was a UK single. It was also backed with solid rock. So they didn't even think, the US audience, they're not going to get Romeo and Juliet. No, how could we get an eternal love song? That's way over our heads. We don't understand sarcasm. You have to be super smart to understand sarcasm. You got to have pasty skin and shitty teeth if you want to understand sarcasm correctly. Whatever.
We just bang pots and pans together here.
Yeah, exactly. Mark's not even English. He's a Jewish Hungarian.
Hey, this is Alan Hunter, original MTV VJ, now on Sirius XM, and you are listening to The Ugly American Werewolf in London.
Anyway, but that's side one. Flip it.
Mm-hmm.
Espresso with an X.
Mm-hmm.
Love. Now, you probably didn't know this one very well until we did Alchemy.
No, I did not. At all. And that makes me a little angry because this song is pretty cool.
It is.
You start off with that strumming, which you're like, yeah, and then the piano comes in, and then it just gets kind of a little bit nasty. Ooh, this is a good song. I like it.
It is. I know. I love it. And it was so good live. I'm like, Jesus, why isn't this a bigger hit?
Exactly. I listened to this probably 3 times in a row. I'm like, wait a minute. Why is this not all over the radio or wasn't back then? I don't know.
Well, again, maybe it's a little long. I don't know, but it's got that good groove to it. It's straight ahead rock. It's not hard riffs, but he's barrel, and gets the sun in the daytime, perfume in the dusk. She comes out at nighttime with the honeysuckle musk. She smells just like a rose. Mm-hmm. She tastes just like a peach. Yes. She got me walking where the wildlife goes. I'll do anything to reach her.
Because she smells just like a rose, and she tastes just like a peach. She got me walking where the wildlife goes. I'd do anything to reach her. And she was made in heaven. Heaven's in the world. Oh, she was made in heaven. Heaven's in the world.
was made in heaven. He's a really good songwriter, not just of the music, which is obvious when you're a great guitar player, but he can put some lines together, can he?
Yeah, and I like the one about how, what does he say about, she says, "Mister, you want to take a walk in the Wild West." You're like, you say, okay, the Wild West End.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about London, where it's a little bit,
That's
the
right.
West End is a little bit dodgy, I
At
believe.
this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's that cool, like who is this person? It's all of a sudden you meet this woman who is just, maybe she's a little bit out of your comfort zone, maybe she's a little bit meaner than, or from a rougher place, but oh my goodness, you want all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. She called me just to talk. She's my lover. She's a friend of mine. Hey, mister, you want to take a walk in the wild ass winsome time? And I get trouble with my breathing when she says boys don't know anything.
Uh-huh.
But I know what I want. Yeah.
Now, I do have a problem with this because he says, just like the saxophone was made for the night, and then there's no saxophone in this song. Okay, that's fine. I guess you're just going to leave me hanging with that, but that's cool. But they do go into a very cool guitar solo, and then he take it, and then he goes into a little bit more of that. I don't know. It doesn't sound like he swaps it to somebody else, which would kind of be what he was saying, but
Right.
I think he's playing the whole thing himself. That's
course.
really cool.
Yeah. But I mean, just some of the lines. And I surrender to the fever, and I surrender to the will of the night. She loved me so tender. I gotta believe her. Love, espresso love's all right. Yeah. I mean, just a jam. And then at the end, it's call and repeat. Hey, maestro, got the espresso. And it's a jam. It's a hell of a good song on Alchemy. So I don't know. I guess somebody didn't get it or didn't think it was worthy of being on the radio, I guess. I don't know. It said it was a radio single in the United States, reaching number 39 on mainstream rock. That's a good jam. Good jam for Mark, and great on Alchemy.
Yeah, and I was trying to look through these lyrics here. He's talking about how, I wanted, like straight up. Like you like that, it's bitter, but it's exciting. You get that rush from your espresso, which I know Italian people will be very upset because they're still arguing with us dummies.
Espresso.
S, not an X. Well, it's an X when Mark Knopfler says it.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm just singing the song, dude.
Right.
Don't give me a hard time. I guess the live version off Alchemy was released with Two Young Lovers on the B side, but then that was on like 45. In 1992, they re-released it on CD with The Bug from On Every Street as it's the B-side to The Bug.
Interesting.
Because The Bug was a minor hit for them.
I do like that song because he brings up the point of sometimes you're the window shield and sometimes you're the bug.
Yeah, sometimes you're a Louisville Slugger. Sometimes you're the ball. All right. Now, next is some of the songs that are not quite necessarily as well known. Hand in Hand is the first one. And this is a very piano-driven Roy Bittan song. It's interesting because it's a strummer for Mark to kind of begin with. But then when you get to the chorus, it's kind of a jam, and it's more like the major chords. It's almost like a Police, like it's kind of minor in the verses. Okay. And then you get to the chorus,
right, and then it's upbeat,
right, and it's kind of bigger. It's kind of Dylan-esque too, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's another kind of story-esque song about, is this like two estranged people that they once had something and now they don't, and they're hearkening back to it. I don't know. I like when he's talking about rain comes down of the dirty town. I'm like, that's London again. Everybody's talking about it's dirty, and industrial place. Yeah.
Never been in such a rainy place in my whole life. 3.5 years.
It's the forecast today. Rain, dummy.
Yeah. It's going to rain at 4 a.m. for 15 minutes, and then somehow it's going to be wet all day. But, if I've ever been hard on you, I never chose to be. I never wanted no one else. I tried my best to be somebody you could be close to, hand in hand like lovers are supposed to.
Oh, here I am. I'm coming back for more. I'm like a wave. It's got to roll into the shore. Yes, and if my love's in vain, how come my love is so strong? If I'm hard on you, I never chose to be. I never wanted no one else. And I tried my best to be somebody you'd be close to. Hand in hand like lovers
Great lines, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a note here. The piano makes this one.
Yeah, I mean, Roy should get so much more credit for this because there was no piano player in Dire Straits before this.
Right.
And he made this album. And if you go to Alchemy or you go to any of the Dire Straits songs after this, whether it's Alan or Guy, it's an incredibly important part of their sound.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, he realized this is something we were missing, and this wasn't going to be a one-time deal. That part needs to stay forever now.
But like he says, now you and me go parallel together and apart, and you keep the perfect distance. And it's tearing at my heart. Mm-hmm. You never feel a distance. You never try to cross no line, you know, because it's another dirty river and another dirty scar. And I don't know who's kissing you, and I don't know where you are. Was this also about Holly? Probably not. Holly sounds like someone he eventually had to get rid of.
I thought you were going to say a restraining order. And that didn't work out. You had changed the locks. Tell her you were going out for vacation and then run away.
Yeah, and hand in hand, I get it. I had heard this one before, but it's not one that they overplay on the radio. That's for sure. But then next is Solid Rock. Now, I always kind of assumed that this was a single, and it was a B-side on both Romeo and Juliet and Skate Away. It also sounds to me like it was, I don't know if the word forced is accurate.
Okay.
But it was almost like, we need a hit single. We need that rock and roll, something that's rock. Solid Rock, okay. Solid Rock, gonna lay. Solid Rock. Because it doesn't necessarily sound like anything else that they did on this one.
Okay. Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe it was something like, we don't hear a hit single, you know. You got a solid rock single? Oh, you need a solid rock? Okay, here it comes.
Give me 5 minutes.
And it's kind of funny, too. I mean, it's almost got that Twisted by the Pool vibe, which is, to me, a little bit tongue-in-cheek throwback. Twisted by the pool.
This one definitely sounds like it's got like a country honky-tonk feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't really sound like anything else on here. It almost sounds like either, they needed something at the end, or they were like, we need another song. Oh, here's one from somewhere else, another time that we're just slap in here.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. It starts with that kind of classic country Knopfler jam kind of piece to it. And then there's ding, 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 ding. There's jamming on the piano. My question was, is this a statement? Like I'm picking a little country, but now we're going to jam hard because we're a rock band.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Again, I'm thinking, did someone say we need a rock single? We need some rock on this album.
Something I can hear on the radio.
Go anywhere. We need some rock. And is he poking fun at the whole, this is hard rock, solid rock, you know? Gonna live, solid rock. I honestly, when I was little, I thought it was gonna lay. Solid rock, like you're laying this foundation of rock, and it sounds like lay on the radio.
It could be. You know, he's talking about how, like, you know, House of Cards never built for shock. Like, you know, like if you've got everything on sand, it's going to fall over. You need to build something. So yeah, I mean, it would make sense that you were laying this down on solid rock.
But then it's, you know, but listen to the lyrics like, I'm sick of potential, I'm sick of vanity, I'm sticking to essential reality. I don't know what's worse. Trying to make a silk purse, living in illusion, in confusion. So is that like, yeah, I do these country pickin' songs and I tell these stories, but I'm in a rock band. Am I just solid rock? That's all I am. It's just a rock.
Okay.
That's what I'm. It's like gonna live, solid rock. Gonna live. I don't want to be blocked. Gonna live on solid rock. I don't know. You know, a house of cards never built for shock. You could blow it down in any kind of weather. Now you take two solid rocks. You know they're gonna stick together. But he's not talking about his brother there, is he?
No, he's not.
Because the heart that you break, that's the one you rely on. That you make, that's the one you got to lie on. When you point your finger, because your plan fell through, you got three more fingers pointing back at you. Yeah, that seems to me about trying to know who you are in a world that is probably increasingly confusing. Especially in 78, you're a genius. You're the next Eric Clapton. You can do anything. Communique comes out.
You suck.
Where's the first album? Can we have some more of that? Is your brother even pulling his weight? Why is he in the band? And then 1980, hey, you're doing great. Yeah, you get to date Holly Vincent of Holly and the Italians. She's probably way better looking than you. Not as talented, but probably way better looking, you know.
But that's not what she's here for.
I'm sick of potential. I'm sick of vanity. Yeah, he was the kind of guy, he had use for money. He could do stuff with money, but he had no use for fame. He did not want people in his face. He did not want to be constantly doing interviews.
Yeah, that's the problem with fame, is that once you get famous, everybody wants that soundbite. And yeah, he's just, I mean, even today, he's not like that. Okay.
I heard a story of him riding the tube to his Royal Albert Hall gig. You know, like he's not showing up necessarily in the big limo. Plus, he's a middle-aged bald man. People who aren't in the know aren't gonna be like, "That's a rock star. Go mob him." It's like, no, that's some dude going to see his ex-wife or something. Right? It's like, but you know, again, I like the song. It's not my favorite. I don't want to say it sounds contrived or forced, but it sounds like you're reacting to something. It's instead of telling a story you want to tell, you're telling this story. I don't know. It's
and again, it's the second to the last track, so you already have that prejudice in there. And with it's not a bad song, but compared to what you've heard so far, it's not. It's like a B compared to everything else.
Right. I mean, you know, the first 5 songs I feel like are pretty strong.
Right.
And and it's got a "Gonna Live." Solid rock. It's fun live. I think they played it at Live Aid, did they not?
I don't know for sure, but they could have. I mean, it definitely would be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, I have to go through history? You got to be fucking kidding.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. If only Alan Hunter were here to tell us.
Yeah, he would know, wouldn't he?
He would.
He would just know.
Correct.
Yeah, they did. They were accompanied by Nils Lofgren and Hank Marvin. Nils Lofgren on Solid Rock. So there's been this kind of E Street Band connection for a while there. Mm-hmm. It closes with Les Boys.
Yes.
Wow, what a letdown.
Well, and how about pulling the emergency brake and making a hard left turn?
Yeah, I mean, not a jam. It's like it takes what was a pretty damn good album, rockin' album. May not love solid rock, but it is a rocker. And so everything's been pretty darn good. And then there's this that just isn't like
it's
anything else.
And the subject matter is very strange that you would feel compelled to tell the story, especially in 1980. Mm-hmm. I don't know where this is coming from.
Well, I mean, I think they were popular in Germany.
All right.
And, you know, you go to like Munich or something like that, there's a pretty vibrant gay scene there from what I understand. I've never been to Munich. I have been to Germany. Gay Germans is just such an odd thing to me. Because, I mean, of course, obviously you think about, you know, in the 30s and 40s, you couldn't have been a gay German.
No.
And then Germans are these big, strong, beer-swilling, engineering type, you know, you do this and this, you do not stray between. There's no German comedians. And so, like, having a huge German gay scene, it's not surprising because there's gay people everywhere.
Right.
Except for maybe like Russia and Saudi Arabia. But I don't know. And then you're just talking, Les Boys do cabaret. Les Boys are glad to be gay. It's the whole thing is about it. They're not afraid now. A disco bar in Germany are glad to be upon parade now. Les Boys got leather straps. Les Boys got SS caps. But they got no gun now. They dressed up a little risque to go do a little S&M these days. It's all in fun now.
Get dressed up, get a little risque, got to do a little S&M these days. It's all in fun now. Lace boys come on again for the high-class whores and the businessmen who drive in their Mercedes-Benz to a disco bar in old Munchen.
But that's not your scene. I don't know why you're telling this story.
Right. That was the thing to me. Yeah. It's just that nothing about this fits the rest of this record. The vibe of this thing. I mean, it is kind of cool because they play it like a cabaret song.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. But it doesn't seem like it fits. Yeah. It's just a very odd track.
Yeah.
To put on this thing.
I agree. It's the music is different, totally different from everything else.
Yes.
You're singing about something that's not really endemic of your personality, just something that you witnessed, I suppose.
And maybe it was, and maybe that was it. Maybe you went to one of these shows and you thought, boy, it's really weird that these flamboyantly gay people are doing this show for these businessmen in Mercedes that show up. Like this is a weird scene. Like you wouldn't think this would go together, but apparently the high class whores and the businessmen love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Going to a drag show, I guess.
Yeah.
As long as they're not reading books to little kids, I guess that's fine.
Perfect.
I don't know. Even without the lyrical content, it's a weird song. You throw in the lyrics and the story that he's telling. It's like, okay, it's a skip for me, but
well, like on if you listen to stuff on like Spotify or iTunes, if you listen to a record, when it's done, it doesn't stop. It just picks another track for you to listen to.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you feel like, did I get to something else? Did I get to the end and it skipped and no one told, nope, this is the same record.
Yep.
All right.
But overall, this album was very well received. I think the critics were on board with Mark early. Rolling Stone gave it 4 out of 5. David Fricke was like, is the record on which Mark Knopfler comes out from behind his influences, and Dire Straits comes out from behind Mark Knopfler. And his intense vocal performance and the band's cutting-edge rock and roll soundtrack is breathtaking. Everything the first 2 albums should have been but weren't. If making movies really were a film, it might win a flock of Academy Awards. Wow,
Ooh,
David really
easy.
likes that one, dude.
Clearly.
Of course, Robert Christgau gave it a C+ because he shits all over everything that isn't punk or whatever it is he likes.
Well, could have been better. Shut up.
Rolling Stone ranked it number 52 on their 100 best albums of the 80s. Whatever that's worth. But to me, heck of a good album. And what's important is the songs were great live. They're not just like we did some studio tricks and made these cool songs and then we're never going to reproduce them. No, they were so good that he went out and got Alan Clark so he would have somebody to play piano on there, and then eventually got Guy Fletcher, which I gotta believe is one of the most important people in his life.
Right.
Not just his career, but in his life, because he's been by his side since he joined the band. Even when the band went away.
Yeah.
He's like, fine, John Illsley, you can go. Drummers, go. Guy, you stick around.
No, not you, Guy. You stay here.
You stay here. The rest of you, bye-bye. Yeah, I'll call you when I want to do a reunion. Just sit by the phone and wait.
I need you to run the studio.
Yeah, the best studio in British Grove, maybe in all of London.
But it's tough when you've got that other now that the entire catalog is available. It's tough when you've got that monster sitting off to the side that everybody knows. That you want to take, if you like this, you'd really like this other record too. Yeah, but I know this so well. Yeah,
exactly.
But if you just spend a minute here on this other one, you'd really like it, I think.
This is the 40th anniversary of the biggest album. And look, Brothers in Arms wasn't just a big Dire Straits album. It was one of the biggest albums of all time.
Yeah.
Talking more than like 30 million in sales or whatever it was. They didn't make another album for 6 years. And then Mark's like, great, now I can dissolve this band. I can just go be me. I can build this cool studio and I'll use it, but also run it out to the biggest names. And that's basically his life. I'm not in arenas. I'm not in stadiums. I'm not just singing all these old songs. The ones I like Sultans of Swing, like Romeo and Juliet, I'll continue to play. But then I'm going to make all this other new music. And he's made more solo albums than he ever made with Dire Straits. And some of them I would put up there. It's a different sound, but I would put them in the quality of Dire Straits, something like Sailing to Philadelphia especially. So I've seen him play some of these songs live as a solo artist with Guy. He was great. I think he's retired now. I don't think he tours anymore. I'm not saying he won't ever make any more music, but I don't think he's going on the road anymore. So if you wanted to see Mark, it's over, I think.
Yeah. I mean, unless you can, he may do something, one-offs like in London or something. But I mean, yeah, you got to figure at his age, he doesn't need the money. He doesn't want the fame. And that's a lot of work to put in. So I think I'm good where I am. He had that big auction not too long ago where he sold a lot of his guitars.
Yeah. So God bless you, Mark. Glad you made this one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's probably a couple more that we'll get to at some point.
I hope so.
Well, that's our rundown of Making Movies, the 1980 album by Dire Straits. I don't know if I agree with Jackson's assessment that it would be easier to just go to New York City, and that way you can bear down and work. There's a lot of distractions in New York City. I used to do business in New York City back in the day, and yeah, I worked hard during the day, and we played hard at night. But I guess Mark's more mature than me, and he was trying to keep his new band that's suddenly on top of the charts in that stratosphere. He wanted to keep them selling records, he wanted to keep them on tour, keep the money rolling in, and wanted to work with Jimmy Iovine. So it all worked out, made a heck of a great album making movies. I know that everyone will always say it's Brothers in Arms, that's the greatest they ever had. It was a strong lineup. They had plenty of money and time to make it. It sold 30 plus million copies around the world. You're never going to get people to say this is better, but I might like it better. I might find it more listenable, not overplayed, certainly, like Brothers in Arms is. And there's some great moments in here from Mark. But Roy Bittan, probably the MVP, maybe even more so than Mark Knopfler, who did all the writing, all the singing, and all the guitar playing. We knew Mark Knopfler coming in on this. We'd heard the first 2 albums, but adding all this piano really gave it some new life. And on Alchemy, with Alan Clark and Tommy Mandel on the keyboards, these songs really came to life. One of my very favorite live albums of all time, which we reviewed many, many, many moons ago. But for those of you who only have a greatest hits album, or maybe Brothers in Arms, I would say give this one a listen. Really think you'll like it. Great Dire Straits. Showed up great on Alchemy. And it kept them going. It kept them on that upward trajectory. And we want to know, folks, did we get something right? Did we get something wrong? Did we miss the point? Did we leave out your favorite part? Email us and let us know. It's uglyamericανwerewolf@gmail.com. You can let us know the bands, the albums, the tours, the DVDs, the books, the rock properties you want to hear us talk about here on the show. We need you to download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Those downloads are the lifeblood of growing our show. And if you really want to help us out, hey, please go out and give us a 5-star review. It just means the world to us. It helps us find more rock and rollers like you. And if you send it our way, we might just read it on an episode. Thanks as always to Pantheon Podcast for making us part of the family. And thanks to our sponsor, rarevinyl.com, where if you use the code UGLY at checkout, you can save 10% off one entire order. That's it for this week, folks. Like I said, we have some great interviews coming up. We have some fun live shows that we want to talk to you about. We have some hot takes coming up. And of course, some classic album reviews. So you're just going to have to stay tuned. And to all you rockers all around the world, be cool and keep doing what you do to keep rock alive.